Welcome, Kern Halls.
Thank you, Tara. How you doing?
Good, thank you. It's so nice to see you and so nice to have you here. And K through 12 people, you're in for a treat today because Kern always has the good advice. And we're talking today about changes you can make in your lunchroom, in your cafeteria. And I kind of want to start with like some schools with the different schedules, they've had hybrids and every which way that you can name it, they've done students coming in and meals, leaving the school. What have you been seeing during the pandemic? You'd mentioned some people took that time to kind of do a little, make some improvements.
Yeah, so like you said with the hybrid, like every state school district is so different. Some states they've been back in school since August. Some schools have been hybrid. Some schools have just been virtual learning. But what we've found is that a lot of school districts that we've been in touch with have been using that time to modify and make improvements in their cafeteria settings. So that's been great. So when the students come back, they'll actually see a new cafeteria. And what we mean by that is that they'll redo the seating in the cafeteria, their paint, they'll do wall decor and just make it more of a, now they're asking me to do like a lounge type feeling to kind of keep up with the retail type of look. So that's one of the great things that has been happening with a lot of school districts around the country. So when the students are coming back full time, that they're coming back to something that's new and different.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to link down below in here. So if folks haven't seen some of the makeovers that Kern and Ingenious Culinary Concepts have done, it's our readers love before and after pictures because who doesn't? And a lot of times it's something that's kind of simple. Like, do you feel like sometimes I feel like maybe directors and kitchen managers like get caught up in like, oh, we can't do, is there a misperception that you have to like go all in and have like a multi-million dollar like levy passed? Like what are some, because you do it really, you make a huge impact, but it's stuff that's like pretty, it's doable.
Yes, yes, and that's the thing. Just even myself, when I used to work for a school district for 8 years, I didn't really know how the process worked to redo your cafeteria until after I left the district. And then the district is really simple. I know for us, we go in, we have a conversation with the director or the decision maker. We literally do a free layout for them. We send it to them, and they just make a decision: yes, no, what do they like. Go through the procurement process, and it's easily done. So it's also too is that people think that they have to do, like you said, a multi-million-dollar makeover. You can do something simple as just doing an accent wall and changing maybe a quarter or half of your furniture that's in your cafeteria, and that makes a big improvement in your cafeteria itself. So you can bite off small chunks at a time.
Yes, and it kind of I feel like changing that atmosphere, it always seems to lift up the staff and then of course the students. And then when the staff sees the students come in and they're like, oh wow, this is neat, that gives them more of the positive energy. So that's going to be needed this year too, because it's going to be an adjustment for everybody getting back to school. So it's like having that mindset. And I wanted to ask you too about like serving lines. Like I noticed that on social media. I see a lot of school food professionals. There's sometimes like what are some of, I don't know if it's a trend or if you're stuck with something that doesn't work. Like what are some things that you've been doing with that?
Yeah, so on the serving line side is that just historically they have the stainless steel lines that is really institutional looking, but now that they are able to make some changes, and are able to make some changes and suggestions as well. So let's start with, if you have an old serving line, you can wrap it from the serving line and make it look fairly new, because now it looks different. And if you're building a new serving line, instead of putting like the stainless steel tops, you can put corian tops. There are different uh, equipment that you can use that can switch you from hot wells to cold wells and vice versa. And it's so many things that you can do. Even decorating behind the serving line, simple signage behind the serving line will give it a different non-institutional look, because students don't eat at schools when they leave. They eat at restaurants and retail locations. So why not mimic that and come close as possible to making that location look the same?
Right, where they're, and it's a place where, and talk a little bit more, please, about that lounge idea, like where, because we want students to start coming back and gathering and having that wonderful sense of community that we've been missing for the past year and a half. So, what are some options with that? What have you been seeing with lounging?
Yeah, so just as adults and also as students, even my son, I have two sons, 21 and 16, and my 16-year-old is like ready to go back to school. He
Mhm.
can't wait till this fall when he's back in person to kind of hang out with his friends. And so when we create that lounge feel, we look at different booths that we can put in inside of the cafeteria, or tables that are high top tables and chairs where the students can have that interaction and they're talking to each other. And believe it or not, I get a lot of calls from principals as well. And they said, like, I want to make my cafeteria like really cool. So I want them to feel relaxed when they go to lunch, and therefore they'll perform better inside of the class when they get back from lunch. So that lounge feel and look, that bistro type look is really important to make, just to dress up your cafeteria. Now, your whole cafeteria doesn't have to be, of course, the lounge and the booth seating, but you want to add some of those different fixtures and those booths to the cafeteria to make sure that they can fulfill the needs of the student.
Yeah. What are some other like features that you've been working on for people to kind of come back in the fall? Like, look at us, look what we have. What have been some highlights for you?
Yeah, so highlights. So really big right now. I have some clients I'm working on right now. Literally today, we're working with some folks, and they're doing it like carts. So they're taking carts, like golf carts, and they're retrofitting them, and so they can go to the students. And that's one of the biggest things that to increase those meals is that some of the students, especially states that like Florida, that have great weather year round, and they are able to sit outside, is that going to that bus loop or going to outside area and set up a cart where it's actually you can pick up your grab and go items of reimbursable meals, where that staff members just they're walking up, grabbing their meals and ringing them up for reimbursable meals and a la carte items, and they're going from there. So that's a huge part that we're working on right now. Again, the cafeteria redesigns and decor, and just looking at ways of marketing. One of the biggest things that a lot of people don't pay attention to that has been working well for school districts is their website. Typically, they're on the district website and it all looks the same, but they're buried. And so we've developed websites for programs that they have their own website where they can get information on the whole school food service program, because a lot of people don't know that parents go there sometimes just to read the menu and
Yeah,
just to see what's going on. So that's a great way to start advertising and marketing some of the great things that you're doing and highlighting it outside of social media that you can see it, especially for the younger students.
that's really cool. So I didn't realize that you did that. So you is
Yeah.
it you made kind of like a template for it? Would that describe it? And then the district would they would or the school food team would fill in their own information on that.
Actually, we do it from A to Z. So once they say that they wanted a website, of course we have different ones. So we have
Yeah.
we build a website for them, and they have an option to do we call it back of the house. So if we're all as a school district, we have an option to put it back of the house where they can store information. So if they need HACCP forms, or they have to communicate with them, every manager will have access where they can just upload a document. So it cuts down on emails. You can go right to the back of the website. You have your own login, and you can get your information from there. And then the From the House website will talk about all the different events they have. They're doing, farm to school event, or it's just National School Breakfast Week or Lunch Week. All that information in the website. And
That's
typically with a lot of websites, they can have that information, and then we put students that are relevant. So we try our best to find images that relate to students nowadays, not from the 80s or 90s.
I know sometimes stock art is like really it's like and you don't want your stuff to turn into a meme.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's no, that's really cool. When let's take it back to when you were working in a school district.
Mhm.
How was it different? Because this was a while ago. Like social media was probably just starting. Like how has communication with the community changed since you were doing that? Like what were some of the challenges that you remember? Like were you maybe probably still sending menus out on paper back when you were there, right?
Yeah, it's like when I started in 2005, the biggest thing was MySpace, that lets you know how far it goes back. So
Oh yes.
communicating with the students were very hard. So we built our own platform when I worked at Orange County Public Schools, and then Facebook came around. At that time, it was still new to a lot of districts across the country, so they're hesitant about starting with it. And nowadays, of course, everyone has a Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and those things, and making sure that you communicate with the students. So the challenge back in days, like you said, we had to print the menu, send them out to the parents. They stuck them on the refrigerators. Now there's apps. They go to the website. All those things have changed and evolved for the best, and just streamline a lot of that process. But we see now that at the end of the day, it's you can have all those great technologies, but it's all boils down to your service as well. So
Mm.
you can redesign the cafeteria, you can do all these great things, but in the day we try to focus on making sure that they know about customer service, and that's a one important thing that you have to make sure that you communicate with that student. They know who you are, and you know how they are, because we have to make sure that we keep that flow going, because those students gradually go from elementary to middle and high school, and then you're bringing in new customers. So that district has to be known for something, and you want to reach out and have that great service like some of the retail organizations.
Oh yeah, and so many lunch ladies and food dudes are that's so much at the forefront is knowing the kids and individually, and that's what always like makes my heart so proud when I talk to people because I've been covering this for a while, but I always am just struck by like how much heart there is in it, which is
Mhm.
awesome. The labor issue is a problem all across food service
Yeah.
right now. Like training is such a big deal. When we do stories about training, so many people are looking for that and like what can be done. And because when you have new people coming in, or when you have people who've been there for a while and like they are tired and their enthusiasm is waning, and whatever that may be, like how are you kind of working with that aspect of it, like the attitude?
Yeah, so the labor issue is just something that everyone's experiencing across the whole country. People are struggling. I talked to some of my clients, and they're working in the kitchens just to make sure that the meals get out. I definitely think it's going to turn around here shortly,
Mhm.
as some different laws and things change, and it's going to be coming around. But you're going to have to see, really market hard to those people that are out there, like what's in it for me, you know if tell them it's no nights, no weekends, if you offer benefits, stability, for if I'm a parent with a young child, I could probably get off on time to pick my child up from the bus stop, or pick him up at after school program. So those are a lot of some of the benefits of working in school food service, as well. It's just a stable job,
Yeah.
and with benefits, retirement, all depends on the system that you're working on. But I tell people it was a great job opportunity for me, coming from working from a theme park, of working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, to having Monday through Friday and no nights and holidays. It was a great jump for me.
Yeah, well, here in Ohio, we have Cedar Point, which is this amusement park with all the big roller coasters, and they are having so much trouble getting. They've raised the salary for people working there in the summer, and a lot of time it was like almost like exchange students. Like there was a lot of people like from Europe who would come and work at Cedar Point, but like nobody's. So where were you working? Were you in like Six Flags or?
So in Orlando, I worked at Walt Disney World, so the largest one down here.
I think I actually knew that about you. I'm sure that we've talked about that in the past.
Yeah,
That's super
yeah.
interesting.
So it's a good jump. Down here, Universal Studios just basically everyone's for struggling hiring, so they just raised their starting pay to $15 an hour, which of course the school districts aren't starting that high, so it's going to be a struggle and a balance. So again, that
Yeah.
no nights, no holidays, that's where you have to kind of wean them and tell them that, hey, here's a benefit to working with us.
And these are things that, have always been benefits of just on site or like working at a college or something like that. For somebody who's like a restaurant chef or a line cook at a restaurant, it's like, hey, this is, much more reasonable hours. And if you're tired of like that party lifestyle, or, you have a family, you don't want to be out all night every night, or your family doesn't want you to, you may still want to. It's like
Exactly.
just communicating that this is a good job, to start. So that's something. What are a couple other like maybe stress points or things that you see school districts facing as the summer flies by and like we get into next year? Like what are some sort of like worries that your clients are having?
Uh, Number one, labor, and the number two I would look at is that how are the students going to react when they come back to school? Because it's been a year, over a year, that some of them have not been in school. So how are they going to react? How are they going to, are they going to come eat breakfast and lunch with us? Are they not going to eat breakfast and lunch? Where
Right.
I look at this as an opportunity, right? So I look at that, okay, now it's time to really put your full fledged marketing out. you're going to have welcome back? Are you going to put balloons in your cafeteria? Are you going to be doing different promotions starting off, and just really going after them really hard to win them back into them? Because unfortunately, we've seen a lot of students that they're eating a lot of using a lot of dining services, delivery services to the house.
I
So
know.
now you got
Yeah.
to wean them back over to eating some, some more nutritious meals, and just change some habits. So the same way they got used to not being in school, you just got to take time to wean them back over to school food service size and get them going.
Yeah, and new routines and new habits and establishing that, and like kids and adults like to have that in their life, and that's giving us the stability and things that are normal. But I love the way that you're describing it, kind of come back there with the energy, like put a few balloons up, like we're
Yeah,
excited to serve you, we're here. Like
yeah.
I think that's a great sort of plan. It's like no matter what you're doing, like let's promote it and bring that energy to it for sure.
Yeah, and I think also with that as well is that not just the students, but also the parents. Like, are you going to do some, bring them in and do a tasting event before school starts? And whatever your guidelines might be for the pandemic. You follow your health department rules, but try to do some kind of tasting, even if it's tiered over, a couple weeks. But
Yeah.
you have to make sure that you get them in and they trust you. So it should be every school should do some kind of mini tasting, let them all in, talking to the parents, give them something to take home and say, like, we're here for you. Your child's going to be safe here with us.
Yeah, yeah, the parents are really just big part of like all the stakeholders that you're looking at. Like you
Yes.
forget about them. And I definitely hope that things can become more hands-on as we see how things are getting better, things are progressing, like, and because everybody wants to still be safe. But I
Yes.
also know that every school chef like wants to be out there and like serving things to people and being hands-on. So it's like cautiously optimistic that that's going to be where we're at. And you had said that you're traveling around and you're very busy this summer, so that's I was so happy to hear that.
Yeah, and it was just traveling, and it was something I had to get used to because I haven't traveled in a while.
Yeah.
And then when I started back traveling again, it was unique. It's like, wow, I haven't been on a plane in a while. So it was something good, and getting a chance to go out there and see different directors and just fulfilling the needs. And it's so many directors doing so much great things out here, outside of just redoing their cafeterias and making the atmosphere look great. They're doing some great marketing initiatives, and we're just glad that we're able to support them and kind of go from there.
For sure, for sure. Well, we are going to keep up with you as always, and we'll check in to see what's happening very soon. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me as usual. I really appreciate it.